Hello guys, what's up? My name is Dvck and welcome to my guide on playing Control Priest. The deck has a lot of good board clears with the Duskbreaker and the Pine-Sized Horror combo, but you also have some other good tools of controlling the board with the Twilight Acolyte, the Cabal Shadow Priest, and the Potion of Madness. This allows for some really strong combos later in the game with Twilight Acolyte or Pine-Sized Potion and a Cabal Shadow Priest, or you can also do Twilight Acolyte and Shadowed Horror or even Potion of Madness. With these combos and some strong minions, you have a really good mid game, but you also have a strong late game as you can generate a lot of values from your Nether Spite Historians and Dragonet Operatives and Elise the Trailblazer. You can even Shadow Visions into more Elise packs for even more value. This deck has a really good place in the meta right now, as it is favored against many of the most popular decks at the moment, such as Cube or Controlled Warlock, Secret Mage, and Murloc or Dude Paladin, which makes this deck really great for tournaments. However, the deck does struggle outside of these matchups, so if you are not facing these matchups that much, I would probably not recommend this deck. This deck features Solar Logorgon, which makes a lot of sense in this list as all your minions have a really strong battle cry or effect. It does however leave you without a good turn free play, so if you're looking for some free drops, you can take out Solar and a Primordial Drake and put in a couple of Glimmer Roots, which also improves your matchup against Priest. The Priest of the Feast can also be replaced by Greater Healing Potion, as they can more reliably be found from Shadow Visions. This will help you against Secret Mage. Some lists also like to run Void River, as it is really strong together with the Pine-Sized Potion and it can give you some more aggressive tools. If you're looking for a silence, you can put in a Cabal Song Stealer, and if you're facing a lot of Jade Druid, you can put in a Skulkengeist. First matchup I'm going to talk about is the Warlock, and let's start by going over the mulligan phase. So in the mulligan, you want some early game minions like the Northern Cleric and the Nether Spite Historian. And other than that, you're looking for a Dragonet Operative and the Twilight Acolyte just in case they have a Mountain Giant for turn 4. If you know 100% that they're not playing Cube Warlock, go ahead and throw away the Twilight Acolyte. You could also consider keeping a Twilight Drake or Powered Shield, but I would not recommend it as most Warlocks are running Doomsayers nowadays. If for instance you are on the play, the Warlock will usually play a Doomsayer on turn 3 in order for them to coin out a 5-drop the following turn. This means that you will not be able to play the Twilight Drake on turn 4. And if you are on the coin, you much rather want to coin out a Dragonet Operative on turn 4 anyways. The game plan against Warlocks is to try and pressure them in the mid game and then steal their Void Lords late in the game. If you can set up a big wall of Void Lords that they can't get through, you should be able to outbalance them in fatigue as they're going to draw more cards than you are. The most important reason that you steal the demons is to make sure that they can't resurrect them with Gul'dan or Insav. This means that you don't need to steal it with a Cabal Shadow Priest, but you just need to make sure that the minions die on your side of the board. You can for instance do this with the Pine-Sized Potion, Potion of Madness, into a Shadowed Horror. The Dragonet Operative is very strong in this matchup as there's so many good things for you to find. You're generally looking for Gul'dan, Insav, Voidlord or Rin, but you can also go for a Twisting Nether, a Silence, or a Hellfire. Even though you can outvalue your opponent, you should still try and pressure them. You have a really good way of dealing with their Voidlord, so sometimes you can win by simply killing them. But be careful you don't overextend too much into a Twisting Nether or a big Defile clear. My last tip is to try and kill their big minions such as the Mountain Giant and the Doomguard as quickly as possible. If you leave them alive, you give the Warlock the opportunity to play a Faceless Manipulator or Carnivorous Cube and a Dark Pact, which can sometimes just lose you the game. Next up we have the Priest. This matchup is very complicated and there are a ton of things to take into consideration. The mulligan phase is pretty straightforward though, as you're just looking for a Dragonet Operative and a few early game minions to go along with it, such as the Northern Cleric and the Nether Spite Historian. The Shadowed Horror can also be extremely good in this matchup, but I would not keep it unless I have a Pine-Sized Potion to go along with it. Your first objective is to figure out what archetype you're facing, so you need to pay a lot of attention to what cards they play in the early game. A Combo Priest can be identified by a Radiant Elemental, while a Spiteful Priest can be identified by a Shadow Ascendant, although some Combo Priests do also run Shadow Ascendant. If they pass on turn 3 or play a Curious Glimmer Root, you're probably up against a Control Priest. But again, the Curious Glimmer Root is also seen in Spiteful Priest, so it can be really hard to figure out sometimes. This is something that will get better with experience, but it can also be a good idea to think about what you have been facing the most recently. Last up, Shadowed Pain means Big Priest, but you can usually also tell if it's a Big Priest if they just pass on the first couple of turns. The overall strategy for all these decks is kinda similar though, as you want to gain resources in the early game from your clerics and Nether Spider Historians, and then you want to start spamming Dragonid operatives in the mid game. Once you kinda asserted yourself on the board, you can then snowball your board state into a victory with the good Pine-sized Horror clear or even a Pine-sized Cabal Shadow Priest. When playing against a combo priest, it's very important that you pay attention to which cards they've already played. If you keep track of Divine Spirits, Powered Shield and Shadow Visions, you will usually have a pretty good idea of what their range is. Also, if they have played both of their Potion of Madnesses or Twilight Acolytes, it means that you don't have to worry about them stealing your minions to kill you with. Also, a good tip is if they pass on a turn in the later stages of the game, it probably means that they have the Twilight Acolyte Potion of Madness combo, and you need to be a little careful about the health of your own minions. Another good tip is to trade proactively into their minions, even if it doesn't kill them, just to reduce their health, so they can't kill you with their combo. Against Control Priest, you want to play a bit more aggressive, but you still need to be careful to not overcommit into a Pine-sized Horror clear. You do still need to pressure him enough so that him stealing one of your minions is not gonna be a major board swing. You can go as wide as you want against Spiteful Priest, as their only AoE removal is a Duskbreaker, but remember to save your Twilight Acolytes for when the Spiteful Summoner comes down. Against Big Priest, you want to try and steal their minions with a Potion of Madness or Cabal Shadow Priest, so that they can't resurrect them again. And also you want to try and not overcommit into a big AoE clear such as Pine-sized Horror or a Psychic Scream. Against Paladin, you're again looking for a Northshire Cleric and another Spider Historian, but you also want to find some removal like the Duskbreaker or a Shadowed Horror. I also like to keep a Potion of Madness, as it can be a good way to deal with a Murloc Tidecaller or some of the other early game minions Paladins might play, such as the Drygulch Jailer, the Knife Juggler or a Direwolf. The game planning is very straightforward here and there's really not that much to talk about. Just want to kill their board early game and then take over the board in the mid game. Paladin doesn't play any removal, so again you're free to go as wide as you want and I encourage you to do so. If you end up getting control of the board, there's really not much a Paladin can do to get back in the game other than buffing his other minions with the Sunkeeper Tarim, a Gentle Megasaur or Lightfeet Stegodon, so you want to always make sure to trade off his minions, and make sure to prioritize his tribe minions such as the Murlocs if you're up against a Murloc Paladin, and the Silverhand Recruits if you're up against a Dude Paladin. Value is not important in this matchup, so you generally just want to make the play that gives you the strongest position on the board. However, it is very important that you learn how to pace your removal. You don't want to play it too early as they have a lot of ways to refill the board, but you also don't want to wait too long so they can buff the minions out of range with a Cold Light Seer, Gentle Megasaur, Lightfeet Stegodon, or an unidentified Maul. Last matchup I want to talk about is the Secret Mage. At this point, it should be no surprise that you again want the Northshire Cleric and another Spider Historian, and other than that, you're pretty much only looking for a Duskbreaker. You can also keep the Shadowed Horror if you have a Pine-sized Potion to go along with it. The game plan is to try and survive their early game, then take over the board in the mid game, and then in the late game you want to out-heal their burn with your Hero Power, your Priestess Feast, your Death Knight, or even from an Elixir from another Spider Historian. When playing against Secret Mage, it is very important that you play around your secrets. They will usually play 2 counterspells, 2 Explosive Runes and 1 Ice Block, and in some cases 1 Potion of Polymorph. For instance, it is a very good idea to save your coin to check for a counterspell. It's a very good idea to keep track of which cards they've already played, so you can kinda get a good idea of how much burst damage they can do. The maximum amount of damage they can do in a single turn is 15, with double Fireball and Frostbolt and with Zalae, but they can do 3 extra damage if they found some additional burn from a Primordial Glyph. My last tip is to apply some pressure to sort of put them on a timer and not give them all the time they need to find their burn, and also you kind of force them to use their burn as removal. You should not be too concerned about AoE removal, as the only AoE they have would come from a Primordial Glyph. A mistake I see very often is people playing Shadow Visions too early. Just because you have 2 mana to spare doesn't mean that you should always play the Shadow Visions if you don't know what you're looking for. It can be a good idea to wait till you have some more information and then figure out what do I want. Remember that you can also save the Shadow Visions for after you've played Elise to get additional Elise packs. Another mistake can be drawing too many cards. This is only relevant in the slower matchups and it's not something you should be concerned about in the early game. However, once you reach the later stages of the game, you want to make sure that your opponent is ahead in fatigue, so sometimes it can be a good idea not to play your Northshire Cleric or your Powered Shield. You have a lot of cards in your deck which generate other cards. This means you'll often be put in a situation where playing one of your cards will make you overdraw on the following turn. This often scares a lot of players and will deter them from making the strongest play. However, overdrawing isn't such a big deal, and it literally does not matter unless the game goes to fatigue. A good way to look at it is by thinking that the burn card is the very last card in your deck. So, you should only really be concerned about this if you suspect that the game is going to go to fatigue, or if you need a really juicy top deck to win the game. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. I tried to keep it a bit short, so if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to leave a comment and I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. Otherwise, I would suggest that you check out Zalae's video that he also did on Controlled Priest. I'll make sure to leave a link for that in the description. This is my very first guide, so if you have any feedback, I'd be more than happy to hear it. Also, of course I have to say it, if you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Alright, peace out boys, take it easy.